Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the Pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by X-Cancer. Check them out at xcancer.com. I haven't talked a lot about Nebraska basketball this year. Hey, I'm a big basketball guy, baseball guy. I watch all the Husker sports. I'm on top of all this stuff. Obviously, football is what I predominantly speak about, but there's a lot of great sports. Nebraska basketball's obviously had a very, very, very tough year. Frankly, since Fred Hoiberg has taken over, it's kind of been just a smidge rough. Now, if you haven't heard, and you probably have at this point, and this is what prompted me to do this show, okay, Fred Hoiberg's going to be back for another season here at the University of Nebraska. He's going to be coming back for a fourth year. His salary has been reduced to $3.25 million, and his buyout has been reduced to $11 million as well. I can't help but wonder, okay, if his original buyout may have had something to do with keeping Hoiberg and also keeping Scott Frost when they brought Scott Frost back as well with the football team. Okay, you look at the record, all right, for football, for basketball, for baseball combined at this point in time. All right, it's not great. Football, 3-9. Baseball at this point in time is 1-6. Basketball is 8-21. That's a combined record of the three most talked about men's sports, if you will, of 12-36. At this point in time, a 25% winning percentage. If you just look at the Big Ten Conference alone, now baseball is 0-0. They haven't played a Big Ten Conference game yet this year. Football was 1-8. Basketball is 2-16. All right, tomorrow's March 1st. All right, since March 1st of a year ago, basketball and football combined have 3 Big Ten Conference wins and a winning percentage of .111. If you didn't know, that's not phenomenal. Okay. And again, I'm not bashing anybody. I'm not over the top wiping anyone's rear end, trying to be nice verbally about them. I'm just reporting the facts and giving my opinion as a commentator because that's just what I do. So Trev Alberts, all right, here's what he had to say. Over the past few weeks, I have had several productive meetings with Coach Hoiberg, and we agree the results of our team are not acceptable. No one is more disappointed or frustrated than Fred Hoiberg. I have known Fred for a long time and watched him build and lead successful teams. Fred has presented, trying to read too fast, a plan to me that I believe is in the best long-term interest of Nebraska athletics and their department, our men's basketball program. Additionally, Fred has agreed to restructure his contract to help make the changes that are necessary to reorient? That's an interesting word. Our program. I believe in Fred and look forward to working with him as he executes his vision for the future of Nebraska men's basketball. That's Trev Alberts. All right. Fred, all right, I said, I appreciate the confidence that Trev Alberts and the University leadership has shown in me. Our results on the court have not been what anyone would have hoped, but I am more committed than ever to building a successful basketball program in Nebraska. That's Fred Hoiberg, end quote. Now, Sam McEwen, he tweeted out, Trev Alberts is not naive to the risk that Nebraska could lose some men's basketball fans in the short term after he chose to retain Fred Hoiberg. Keeping Hoiberg is the right long-term play. This is going to be a place that supports coaches. That's what Trev Alberts had to say about supporting coaches. All right, Tom Chattel said this must be one of the greatest plans in college basketball history. All right, and Sam said this thus begins Tom's skepticism of Trev Alberts being willing to bring back Fred Hoiberg for a fourth year. So you got some people skeptical, everyone's a little skeptical. Some people more supportive than others. How about we put it that way? All right. Now, you do got to keep in mind, well, one more stat that's not going to thrill you. They're interesting to me whether you like it or not. I'm interested in interesting stats, whether they're happy or sad. This is not a great one as far as a happiness level. But Nebraska was 1-30 on the road in the Hoiberg era, okay? And it had been over a year since they had won a Big Ten road game, all right? And that was against Penn State. This was prior to Nebraska basketball's most recent game, which was at Penn State, which they won 93-70. Now, if you want some exciting stats, all right, the average margin of victory, all right, for Big Ten games is Nebraska. Haven't won a lot of them, but the average margin of victory is 18 points per victory in the Big Ten Conference for Big Ten wins for the University of Nebraska. It's actually number 1 in the Big Ten. So you combine that with the fact that we beat Penn State 93-70, you know, I'm expected to see some preseason polls next year where we're preseason number 1. Sorry, bad joke. You got to keep it lighthearted. you got to be able to enjoy your teams even when there are some things that aren't that enjoyable. All right. Now, when you look at the history of Nebraska football, Nebraska basketball, you look at the history of Nebraska basketball, we have 7 NCAA tournament appearances. All right. We are the only major conference basketball program never to have won an NCAA tournament game. We have 16 appearances in the NIT, and we won the NIT championship in 1996. Now, I do support bringing Hoiberg back for a 4th year, and I'll explain why. And there are some parallels to Nebraska football and why I supported Scott Frost coming back, and there are some things that are different. One of the things that are different is Nebraska football played the 2nd toughest schedule in the country. Arkansas had the number 1 most difficult schedule in the country per most experts. All right, they lost 8 games by 1 possession, all 9 games by single digits, which is actually a college football record. Okay, that can be hope-giving or nauseatingly frustrating, however you want to look at that. But Nebraska basketball hasn't even been really competitive as an overall whole this year, with the exception of the very last game that we played versus Penn State. All right. Now, I am skeptical about whether Fred Hoiberg is the guy, just like I am about Frost. But I was supportive of bringing Frost back, and I explained that in previous videos. So why am I okay with bringing Hoiberg back? It should be easier to turn around a basketball program, right? There's far less players on a basketball team. So turning over the roster, getting in your guys should be much easier, much quicker in theory. Now, an easier rebuild is how it would seem. So here's one thing that you got to keep in mind. And again, this is no dig at anybody. It's just how I see it. Like it or not, agree with me or not. We don't have the program prestige or history in our basketball program that our football does in the past. Obviously, recent history is not great. Okay, but overall history, we got a lot of program prestige and successful history in football. We can't necessarily say the same thing about basketball. Okay, again, not shots, just how I see it. All right, I think success right now for the Nebraska basketball program, other than just being competitive at the moment, would be winning an NIT tournament. Getting to the NIT tournament, winning a few games, and by God, if we won it, that'd be phenomenal. That makes you the 69th best team in the country, by the way. Or winning our first ever NCAA tournament game, which we've never done. Or at this point, just making the NCAA tournament. All right. We've made the NCAA tournament 7 times in 124 years. We started playing basketball at the university in 1897. So here's the deal. And I'm not bashing anybody. I'm just saying the expectations for basketball and football historically are very, very different, same as program prestige. So you got to keep that into account when you're looking at these things. And no, football was much more competitive against a tougher schedule than Nebraska basketball was this year, not even close. Fred Hoiberg may or may not be the guy, but I'm never quick to ask for people to lose their jobs unless it's obvious they need to be fired. I have the same attitude towards Hoiberg as I did Frost, okay, in the fact that we need to absolutely make sure that Fred Hoiberg is not the guy to get Nebraska basketball going in the right direction. Remember, both these hires, when they were brought on, were exciting hires at the time. I understand they've both kind of been disappointing or bust so far, however you want to phrase it up to this point in time. Okay, Nebraska basketball fans are incredibly loyal and unbelievably patient. My thought is, what does one more year at this point hurt to absolutely figure out whether Fred Hoiberg kind of is or is not the guy, or at least give him a little bit more of a chance? All right, just to make sure. All right, like I said, Frost was given another year when no other football coach would have. Mike Riley was fired, he was 500. Frost is well below 500, okay? You look at Callahan, he had a winning record, he was fired. You look at Solich, the winningest record of all the coaches I've mentioned, was fired. But Frost was given another year, a decision that I agree with. Okay, I also agree with the Hoiberg decision. It doesn't mean that I'm like, they're the guys. It means give them one more year. Because here's what I'll tell you. The level of expectations for football and basketball right now in Nebraska is so low, okay, at this point, that 1 year from now, it's pretty easy. If these coaches aren't able to deliver on those low expectations, okay, then you got to fire them. All right, I do want to give a shout out to Husker fans. The way they fill the stadiums, the arenas, with the programs that have been struggling, and the way they're there and they're loyal, I mean, everybody says we got the greatest fan. No, we really do have the greatest fans. So shout out to Husker fans. Shout out to some of the programs in Husker sports that are being successful. Like I said, I keep an eye on all the Husker programs. Nebraska women's basketball, Husker bowling, and all the other teams that are being successful right now as well. Shout out to them. Let me know your thoughts. Should Hoiberg have been fired? Should he have been kept? If you believe he should have been kept, hit the like button. All right, let me know in the comments below any other thoughts you may have more in depth. All right, if you believe he should have been kept, hit the like button. If you agree with giving him another year because what's it going to hurt? Let's make absolutely sure, kind of similarly to Frost, to see what happens. Can we meet the low expectations and then build from there next year? Go big, red, and always remember. Throw the buzz. This show is brought to you by X-Cancer. Join the fight at xcancerstore.com and support your loved ones, your neighbors, and cancer fighters all over the world and help them gain access to revolutionary treatments. xcancerstore.com has a wide variety of t-shirts and merchandise supporting a wide variety of cancer battles so you can show off the colors that matter. Proceeds from each purchase not only help those at home, but also cancer fighters in Tanzania, Africa. Check them out at xcancerstore.com.